Galena, Notaalee Denh in Koyukon, is a city in the Yukon-Koyukuk Census Area in the U.S. state of Alaska. At the 2010 census the population was 470. History. Prehistory and early history. The Koyukon Athabascans had seasonal camps in the area and moved as the wild game migrated. In the summer many families floated on rafts to the Yukon River to fish for salmon. There were 12 summer fish camps located on the Yukon River between the Koyukuk River and the Nowitna River. Galena was established in 1918 near an Athabascan fish camp called Henry's Point. It became a supply end point for nearby lead-ore mines that opened in 1918 and 1919. Military Air Base. In 1941 and 1942, during World War II, a military airfield was built adjacent to the civilian airport, and the two facilities shared the runway and flight line facilities. This airfield was designated Galena Air Force Station shortly after the split of the United States Air Force from the United States Army, which occurred as a result of the National Security Act of 1947. During the 1950s, the construction of additional military facilities at Galena and the nearby Campion Air Force Station, in support of Galena's mission as a forward operating base under the auspices of the 5072nd Air Base Group, headquartered at Elmendorf Air Force Base, near Anchorage, provided improvements to the airport and the local infrastructure, causing economic growth for the area. Following the end of the Cold War, in 1993, operation of Galena Air Force Station was turned over to a contractor, and all military personnel were withdrawn with only small groups of active personnel visiting the base on an as-needed basis. The former military facility remains in use effectively as a forward operating location that is used occasionally by the military. This use came under scrutiny by the Base Realignment and Closure Committee in the late 2000s and was officially closed October 1, 2010. The Air Force retains responsibility for toxin cleanup in the area, and engineers from Yukon Air Force Base in Fairbanks still visit the site on occasion. The base is now totally controlled by the City of Galena, the Galena School District and the Alaska Department of Transportation. The Alaska wing of the Civil Air Patrol, CAP, was pursuing retaining one of the F-16 fighter hangars as a CAP facility for the CAP wing in Galena, the Yukon Squadron. Modern era. The city of Galena gained notoriety in 2011 when it was noted in media reports as being the U.S. community which received the most benefits from lobbying efforts. The town evaded bankruptcy by aggressively lobbying for state and federal funds for the Gila boarding school in the town, which produced funds that turned the city's finances around. In May 2013, Galena suffered a freak catastrophic flood when the spring breakup on the Yukon River caused an ice jam approximately 20 miles downstream, backing up the river and affecting 90% of homes in the city. This flood was on the scale of a flood never seen before by Galena residents. In the part of town closest to the river, houses were submerged to the roofs in water, and properties on higher grounds suffered damage also. Most of the residents had to evacuate, and thanks to the efforts of the local airline and the Alaska National Guard. Some of the residents chose to stay behind and took refuge in the few last remaining dry parts of town. The Flood Dike the Air Force built around the runway managed to keep the river from inundating the runway and Gila. Efforts are currently underway to help Galena rebuild, with the assistance of the Federal Emergency Management Agency and volunteer groups.